Hey YouTube, I'm Kenneth Ryan.
And I'm Linz.
And we are back and better than ever with an all-new episode of Fanfiction Friday. Put in some air horns. Pew, 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 pew. Yeah, you did it. We're picking up where we left off a year ago with the fanfiction Star Wars: The New Galaxy by Cloud411. So, it's been a year. I don't remember shit.
Me neither.
But we're just gonna
We don't remember the voices, we don't remember the characters, but we're not gonna go back and watch that video, because who cares?
Because why would we ever make a quality show on YouTube?
And I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing in that last video, though.
So, this fanfiction is a modern-day 2008 Star Wars story of the Jedi and the Sith and Mike, a teenager who has no clue what his destiny holds.
Finished. Please review.
The story is finished, blah, blah, blah. We're doing it. We're playing the feud. Cool. So we're just picking up Chapter 5, The Guardians.
And yeah, we don't remember what their voices were, but we haven't rewatched
them
it
up.
because we didn't have plans for today.
Mike and Brittany stand there looking at each other in front of Brittany's house. She held his hands in hers. I
was Brittany.
Oh fuck, you're right. We do it that way.
Yes. What was her? I don't
know. You're
I feel like
Brittany,
I feel like it was a stupid trying to.
It's Brittany.
Do
bitch.
something like Valley Girl, but I can't do Valley Girl. But I had a really great time, Mike. She said, her cheeks turning a bit red.
I had a wonderful time, too, Mike replied, smiling. They leaned in close and gave each other a goodnight kiss. Mike watched as she walked down her hallway.
Walked down her walkway.
And up her porch. Before walking through the front door, she turned to him and gave him a wink. He returned the wink with one of his. He turned...
Why do you wink? If someone winks at you flirtily, you don't wink back.
All I know is we can't dreamcast Brittany as Rihanna because Rihanna can't wink. You ever see those videos? They're hilarious. She tries and then both of her eyes close at the last second. It's so funny. Rihanna tries her damnedest though.
Go.
Shit. He turned and walked.
You're a little close to the side.
Shit. I'm really good at YouTube. He turned and started to walk down the street. They had gone to the movies as planned and spent the whole time mainly sitting together and holding hands. I forgot this is a hetero fic. Oh, that hurts my soul a little. He didn't even care about the movie. All he cared about was spending time with her. Blech. He had just seen the movie no more than 2 hours ago, but did not know what the thing was about or what happened during it. He watched it, but his mind was not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's... His mind was filled with thoughts of him and Brittany, and of this force, that his ability come from. Now that he was alone, he could think this over. The Jedi and the Sith, good and evil, light and dark. Which would he end up choosing in the end?
I don't remember what characters we were
either. I don't either.
So once the evil people come in...
He turned down the street, making his way home after his sixth sense flared up again. When his sixth sense flared up again.
I see dead people.
It told him to roll to his left, and he did. Something stabbed into the ground next to him. It was some kind of pole with two... emojis
that are gone.
Two emojis, bald spots on both ends, and it seemed to be emanating electricity. Hey, so the camera freaked out. That's fun, right? But we're back. It was some kind of pole with two emojis. Bald spots on both ends, and it seemed to be emanating electricity from both ends. I want to point out that's exactly how the sentence flows.
What are bald spots?
They don't have hair. There's no hair.
I mean, I guess.
Cool. He rolled to his feet and looked in the direction that it came from.
Did someone just throw a random lightsaber, staff at him?
I guess. He's getting fucked, dude. Rolled to his feet and looked in the direction that it came from. He saw two outlines in the darkness walking towards him. The two figures walked under a street lamp. It was a man and a woman, both dressed in business-like suits. The woman held one of those pole things in her hands.
Okay.
Mike took... Is this a world where Star Wars doesn't exist? I'm gonna guess yes, because otherwise he would know the lore.
I feel like this is something we probably mentioned in the first 4 chapters, but yeah, I think so.
That was a year ago, honey. I'm older now. I don't know anything.
It's a refresher for all of us.
Mike took several steps backward, not taking his eyes off the two strangers, who he could tell, even without his sixth sense, that they were not there to talk. They were there to fight.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
People in business suits. Clearly they're looking for a fight.
He turned and started to run as fast as he could, not knowing why these two people were after him. Suddenly, his sixth sense went off again, but he was too slow. He was stabbed in the back with some type of what felt like a needle.
Your sixth sense blocked you from an attack that you had no idea was coming. But now when you know they're behind you, following you, you're too slow to react to it.
He's a
to the fact
idiot,
that they
I'm
might
guessing.
throw something at you behind when they threw something at you in the first place.
Look, man, he collapsed on the ground. The needle was pulsating electricity through his
it's a
body.
taser.
The voltage was so powerful that he
It's not
couldn't
even
do
Star
anything
Wars, it's
but
literally just a
flop on the
taser.
ground like a fish out of water. The pain was unbearable. It felt like his whole body was on fire and that it was being torn apart. He could faintly hear footsteps getting closer to him. It was impossible to hear anything from the sound of the electricity coursing through his body, and his own screams, which no one around him could seem to hear or care.
You can't hear anything, but you can hear them walking.
Listen, I never said this was good.
It's
not bad, but like some of the grammar. Then he heard some kind of snap hiss noise, and he heard a loud humming noise as the pain suddenly stopped. He lay there on the ground, flinching and twitching, the electricity still in his body. He opened his eyes slowly to see some kind of red energy blade next to him. The weapon from his dream! Emoji that are just boxes.
Which one of us is Darth Storm?
I don't fucking know.
I mean, it could be me just because you're talking to yourself for literally an entire...
No, that's fair. He jumped up and looked at the black-robed figure who called himself Darth Storm.
I can't do, like, a green voice for this. Or...
You can do whatever you like.
Get back! Storm ordered. Mike did as he was told, so confused that the only thing on his mind was to get the hell out of there. He turned around and bolted for the street next to the one they were on.
Oh, he's good now, alright.
He could hear some sizzling and crackling noises coming from behind him. He kept on running. Where he was running to, he didn't know. He just knew that he needed to get to somewhere safe. His sixth sense flared up again, and he dove to the ground in time to avoid another one of those needle things from hitting him in the back again.
A taser?
A taser. He flipped over on his back and looked behind him. So this time when you're not sure if they're behind you or not, it's fast enough. I don't know.
It's a contrivance.
He looked
of
over
plot.
on his back and looked behind him. 2 more suited guys are walking towards him.
What's going on? I decided he gets the hero voice, because oh my god. He screamed. Suddenly, a red blade of energy came through one of the man's chest.
Oh, he's dead now.
The second man spun around and used his electric rod to hold off the blade of red energy. The man who was stabbed flopped lifelessly to the ground where he stood, as expected.
Oh, where he stood.
Oh, I hate living on a main road. Ooh, oh, honey. Oh, she froze. Fanfiction Friday, the podcast. I'm not fucking dealing with this nonsense. You might gotta turn it off, though. Technical difficulties. Darth Storm was wielding his weird blade with one hand. He twisted and twirled as he tore down the suited man's defense. In one swift motion, he took off the man's arm and it fell to the ground holding the rod.
He took off his arm?
Yep. He did that. He sure did that. Storm held out the hand he was not holding the weapon in, and a violet blue lightning came flying out of and engulfed the man who attacked Mike. Storm laughed as the man flopped on the ground and squealed in pain and agony until his body went limp?
Can Jedi/Sith shoot lightning from their hands?
Yeah, did you know the Darth Sidious did it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then he
I don't remember this happening, but then that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was like the end of episode 6, and like
it just made me think of like Avatar for a sec, like the Last Airbender, not the blue people.
Oh, I was like, well, you
Where,
mean
like,
James
lightning
Cameron's
benders
Avatar?
or whatever.
Cool. Storm laughed. The man flopped to the ground and squealed in pain and agony until his body went limp and lifeless. Storm deactivated his emoji weapon and clipped it to his waist and turned to face Mike.
You see what the normal people think of us now, he said in his dark voice. They see us as freaks who need to be exterminated.
Who were those guys? Mike asked.
It sounds like, what's that one? Like one of those abridged series of the anime. It's like a side character who's like, ah.
He's the main hero.
I think it's from Sword Art Online, as in like, we must save my family guy. I don't know if you've watched that. The abridged
I have
series.
not.
It's great. It's a great abridged series. Anyways,
Storm is talking.
okay. They call themselves the Guardians. Storm answered, walking towards Mike. The Guardians, and Guardians is capitalized.
Yeah.
Ooh, fancy.
Trademark.
They're an organization made up of normal humans with only one goal. The extermination of everyone who is like us. The Jedi and the Sith alike, he explained.
Why did they try to kill me? Mike yelled. I haven't done anything.
Yes, you have, Storm shot back. You have the power to use the Force like us. That is reason enough for them to kill you, he answered. You've only about 3 days until the heads of the organization realize that the men they sent here are dead, he added. That's a long time.
That's like a...
You have 3 days before they check in to be like, hey.
Guess they didn't make it.
Didn't reply.
What then? Mike asked, shaking. Storm placed a gloved hand on Mike's shoulder.
They will send higher level people here to kill you, and everyone who gets in their way. That includes your family, your friends, and your girlfriend, he answered. Does this guy know that he has a girlfriend? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't remember any of their relationships.
Because he just, like, met him, like, one time or whatever.
Listen.
And he was like, no, I don't want to join
I love
you.
that they're like, they will send higher level people. Like, the traditional JRPG happening here. Like, alright, these are the level 5s, but next time they're sending the level 15s, so you've got 3 days to level grind, Mike. Otherwise, they're gonna get you. Why would they kill innocent people? Mike yelled back, unable to control the volume of his voice.
No one is innocent if they can use the Force to them, Storm replied. For thousands of years, the Sith and the Jedi have fought each other in a never-ending war, oblivious to the enemy that has been hunting both sides down and killing them, he explained. The Jedi want to defeat them, but let them live. No, those who they let live will only come back to kill more of us.
Emoji.
Like, it's a line break or something, but also no. Storm held out his hand. Come with me, he said. Come join us and prevent further killings of our kind.
I can't join any side, Mike shouted back. I don't know what the fuck to do. Mike could feel his anger at this change in his life boiling over. Why was this happening to him? Why was his life being torn apart like this? His anger was quickly transforming into rage. Rage at everyone. Rage at this Storm guy for approaching him. Rage at Joe for explaining his power. Rage at the Guardians for throwing his life into this never-ending hell. And angry at himself for being born with this ability.
If anyone's in the actually watching this, remind us who Joe is, please, in the comments.
Yeah, someone please.
Because I don't know that I'm gonna remember to go back and like rewatch it.
Oh, that might be too much of a drop. We're spiking. I'm spiking the audio. All right,
I'll probably forget to go back and watch.
Storm tilted his hooded head to one side, clearly interested at the amount of anger and rage Mike was pushing out.
Mike, Sith out.
He hated them all. The Sith, the Jedi, the Guardians. He wants them all dead.
Okay. Fourth side in this war. They will keep coming for you, Storm said, feeding Mike's anger. They will keep coming and kill anyone who gets in their way. Your family, your girlfriend, Dad, you already said this. We can teach you to transform your anger into power. That sounds very Sith. And how to use that power to protect yourself and destroy the Guardians for doing this to you. For destroying your life, he screamed. Make them suffer! Mike took a deep breath and said in a low voice,
I won't run from them. I won't turn into a coward. If they want me, I'll be here waiting for them, and I'll protect my family and myself while living my life here, he said, his voice steadily rising. I won't be intimidated by them. I won't be pushed into running away from my home. I won't leave my family and friends.
Everyone's gonna die.
Emoji, emoji. Storm smiled under the shadow of his hood.
I will help you, he said, taking a step forward. We've about 3 days until they send more of their men here to find you and kill you. You said this already. I will train you within that 3-day period in the ways of the Force and the dark side. I will give you what you need to protect them and yourself, he said, placing a hand on his shoulder. You will be my apprentice. Mike looked up into the shadow face hidden beneath the hood and got down on one knee. Why are you saying this?
And in that moment, I received horrible war flashbacks to when fucking Pippin swore loyalty to Gondor, and Gandalf was like, "You're a fucking idiot." That's my abridged version of Lord of the Rings, of course.
Yeah.
I pledge myself to your teachings. Please help me keep them safe, and give me the power to keep my life the way it is and not have it change, he begged. Storm pulled Mike to his feet slowly. I will, but at least only between us for now. You must have a new name, one that fits your goal. What? Oh, sorry. What name? Mike asked. You wish to give your family and loved ones along with yourself salvation, he answered. Therefore, you'll become a man of your word, and that word will be in your name. Darth Salvador. Darth Salvador. Man, I'm quaking in my boots.
Darth Salvador.
I'm quaking. Darth fucking Salvador. Chapter 6. Rise of Darth Salvador. When Mike... don't you mean Darth Salvador? We already established a name change.
Only between the two of them, though.
When Mike returned home after all that had happened that night, sleep would not come to him. His mind was too wrapped around the drastic changes his life was going through. When he woke up 2 days ago, he was just a junior in high school with a strange gift no one else seemed to have. And now, 2 days later, because of that gift, his life was in danger of being destroyed. His family, his friends, Brittany. It was all in grave danger.
All was in grave danger.
And he needed to take action to stop it from happening. I love how he's like, my family, my friends, the girl I want to fuck. God, all in danger.
Yeah.
He lay on his bed, staring at his ceiling for hours and hours, thinking about what will happen to him now. He has sworn his loyalty to power, to the dark side. He needed power to protect them, power that the Jedi didn't seem to be able to offer.
It's kind of wild that he's joining the dark side.
He's a flawed anti-hero, I suppose. They only offered peace and the greater good of those who were trying to kill them. Mike didn't see it that way. Those who attack to kill must be met with the same force, or else the battle will be endless. Storm had told him that his training would begin tomorrow night. I don't know where this voice is going. At midnight.
Narrator voice.
And would continue as long as was needed. He would make Mike strong enough in the ways of the dark side to ensure his ability to protect those he needed to protect. He closed his eyes and tried to clear his mind of all the feelings that were coursing their way through him. Brittany, he muttered to himself, most of everyone. I want to protect you and stay with you, and that would threaten you.
All that would threaten you.
All that would threaten you should be eliminated.
How long? He's crushed on this girl for a while, I guess, but he's
went on like one date.
He went to the movie one time and he's like, "Oh, I
will protect you.
I'm gonna protect you with my life."
Look, man, I don't know. He continued to think of what would happen to his life now, if he would be able to hold it, or if he would hold it too tightly and squeeze it to death, or if he would release his grip too much and his life would fly away. He needed to tread softly, but not so softly that it heated his progress in his training he was about to start. He tried once again to clear his mind, but the more he tried to clear it, the more things started to pour in. He was jerked out of his line of thought by the phone ringing next to his bed. He reached over and picked it up off the table next to his bed. He flipped it open. "Hello," he greeted.
"Hey, Mike," a female voice of Brittany answered.
"Oh, hey," Mike replied, looking at the time. "It's 3 a.m. You all right?" he asked.
"Yeah," she replied in a low voice. It's not going sexy, but it sounds sexy.
"No, you're not," He shot back. I can sense it in your voice. What's wrong?
Oh, where was I heard a lot of commotion out of the house a few minutes after you left. Did you see anything? She asked, worried. Why are you calling me 2 hours?
Right? You're calling like way later.
Like 5 hours after.
No, he answered immediately. What kind of commotion? He asked.
I heard some electricity type noise and some humming and sizzling. It was weird, she answered.
Is that why you can't sleep? He asked.
How did you know I couldn't sleep? She asked back. Maybe because you're fucking calling him at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, I was like, most of the time, if people are calling, like, context clues, kind of like, you know.
Oh, no, in my case, yeah, I'm just awake at that time sometimes, but...
Well, usually you're asleep at 3 in the morning, not on the phone, he answered, covering up the real reason he knew. He could sense it through the phone.
He can sense it through the phone. True, she replied. There is another reason, she added.
What is it? He asked, laying on his bed.
I was thinking about you, she said slowly.
I was thinking about you too, he replied. To be honest, I can't sleep either, he added. Sleep just won't visit me. People don't talk like that.
Can you do me a favor? She asked.
Of course. You name it, he answered. His head turned to his window, where he heard something hit it. Something like small, like a pebble or something. He got up. Hold on a second. There's someone throwing something at my dumb window.
You're an idiot.
He
Can you do me a favor? Of course, you name it. Tick, tick. Oh, hey, someone's knocking at my window. Gotta go check who it is.
That's why he's got the dumb hero voice.
You have the force, and you can sense that she can't sleep through the phone. But you can't sense that she's literally
outside.
10 feet away from you.
He whipped open his curtains and saw Brittany on the front lawn of his house holding her cell phone in her hand and tossing and catching a pebble in her other hand.
Yeah, that someone would be me, she replied, staring up at him. Mike threw open his window and leapt down to the lawn in front of her. He's jumped out a window.
It's the Force, man.
And she doesn't question this.
He's a badass. Hey, he said into the cell phone and to her. She giggled and closed her phone. She flung her arms around him and embraced him in a long kiss.
Have they even kissed yet at this point?
I don't fucking remember.
Is this their first kiss?
He dropped his phone to the ground and wrapped his arms around her waist.
Follow me, she whispered, grabbing his arm and pulling him down the street.
Heterosexual fanfiction is wild to me. It feels wrong.
We've read a lot of gay fanfiction.
It's because I just
a
like...
lot of gay
I know, that's why I'm like, this feels wrong.
Have we read straight
I don't think
couples
so.
at all?
We read
there was
that
a couple
wild.
lesbians.
We read that wild
they
Sailor
had, like,
Moon one,
dicks.
where it was like the gangbang in the subway.
Oh, yeah.
That one was wild.
That one was crazy.
I was shooketh.
If we ever become famous, we need to, like, delete this stuff off the internet.
Absolutely not. I will own up to Fanfiction Friday like
But if we
nobody's
marry
business.
a K-pop star, we'll get them in trouble.
Well, we
No.
haven't done that, I don't think.
What?
We've only done anime characters.
No, not just... yeah, not comfortable with reading, like, RPF, besides, like, the Game Grumps one, because they were fine with it. But...
That's true. Polygrums, they're okay with.
But even just, like, hey, your girlfriend read erotic fan fiction on the internet and has expressed a lot of opinions about it.
Man, it's not like erotica isn't, like, a popular
it's
genre.
Not like that'll ever happen. But still...
Like, I don't know. I just feel like you should just be able to own up to this, and it's like, okay, like, why do you care? Like,
I wouldn't care.
I'm doing it for entertainment. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but if, like, you're into that, like, hey,
It's
like,
controversy.
it's funny. I think it's funny. I don't know.
I'd be a great celebrity, wife, girlfriend, whatever.
Anyways. Okay, you don't need to pull, he said as they rounded another street. Where are we going? He asked.
A secret spot that I was waiting to show you, she answered. She led him down several other streets and towards a heavily wooded area. Is she evil? No.
She might be.
Is she a Jedi? Because he's on the dark side.
Oh no.
She led him... Now he'd be able to sense it, hopefully.
I don't know. He's kind of dumb.
Yeah, true. She led him through the trees and down a path that was only visible to those who made their way through the dense layer of trees. No one ever comes through this place because it's so dense with trees. She said, as she pulled him down the path into a circular clearing in the dense field of trees.
How many times do you say dense in one fucking sentence?
In trees.
Do you get a sense of where they are yet?
Yeah. The clearing was filled with grass and flowers. It's 3 a.m. You can't see this. It was about 8 meters wide on all sides. You also can't see that unless the force. I don't know.
I don't know.
A very nice secret spot. She pulled him forward, but tripped on a rock on the ground and fell forward, yanking him down with her. She fell on her stomach and turned over. He had fallen on top of her, and she giggled, and her cheeks turned red. Oh, classic anime. They trip and fall, except not, like, weird, because they're actually dating.
Oh my god.
She moved her head up slowly and gave him another deep kiss. He returned the favor. He could feel his blood start to race through his body, towards his penis!
I mean, you're not wrong.
His heart started pumping so hard he could hear it as clear as he was hearing the birds around them. Birds are asleep. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Brittany pushed Mike over next to him. Maybe owls. Next to him. Oh, where was I? Over next to her, then crawled on top of him, and they resumed kissing. She removed his shirt and resumed kissing him. They just said that twice. They both lost themselves to the moment and the heat and passion that burned inside them for each other. Mike lay on the ground, his shirt still off, and Brittany lay next to him. Her arm wrapped around his bare chest. Is this like a time skip? Yeah, random.
I guess.
Random time jump. She had on no shirt, only her bra, which is spelled with a W, which she had just put back on. Mike looked up at the clear, starry sky, then looked at Brittany's beautiful face. Her eyes were closed, and a random emojis smiled. I think those are just accidents.
Yeah.
And a smile was plastered on her face. Her cheeks were still burning red, as he was sure his was as well.
So I'm assuming they had some off-screen sex?
Off-screen sex!
Is that the implication here?
Yep. After an hour of just laying there together on the cold, hard ground in this field at 3 a.m. where there's probably mosquitoes just literally eating you alive. Mike grabbed Brittany's pants off the ground and pulled out her cell phone to check the time. 6 a.m. He stroked Brittany's face gently with his hand. Her eyes slowly opened, and she beamed a bright smile at him. "Hey," she whispered.
"It's 6 a.m, he whispered slowly and gently.
You sound like
whipping.
gold.
That's totally whipping, right?
Yeah.
Whipping her hair from her eyes. "I think your parents will be worried if they...
gold
Well,
now.
that's the hero voice.
Yeah.
We'll be worried if they wake up and you're not there," he said.
"I told them I might be spending the night with a friend," she whispered back. "After you left at 3 a.m.?
"Oh, might?" he repeated.
"Just in case you're asleep," she answered. "If you were asleep, then I'd have stayed home and tried my hardest to get some sleep too," she added. "But you weren't asleep."
So you basically lied to your parents," he said with a grin on his face.
"No," she answered with an even bigger grin on hers. "I told them I'd be spending the night with a friend. I never said who that friend was," she corrected him. "And they didn't ask," she added. He leaned in and kissed her softly on the lips. She beamed up at him. This is still me. Okay.
Hold on. The chapter's called Rise of Darth Salvador. Is that a pun on his penis?
Yes.
The Rise of Darth Salvador. He gets his dick wet.
Is he gonna nickname his penis Darth Salvador as well?
Oh my god.
Because that'd be funny.
I hope that was intentional, because otherwise that's just accidental genius.
Accidental, yeah. "I'm extremely happy right now," she whispered. "For the past 2 years, I've been in love with you," she said. "But I've been too afraid, I guess, that you wouldn't feel the same way about me." Her cheeks burned a bright red. "And just in case you did feel the same way, I was saving myself for you." She looked away, her cheeks bright red.
Oh boy.
Mike could feel the heat rushing to his cheeks as well. He put his finger on the tip of her chin and gently pushed it up so he could look into her eyes.
My studies of women's studies are just like, virginity is a construct. It doesn't actually matter. You know, it just carries social value because we give it value, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna stop before I go on a feminist rant.
I mean, we can do that. I don't care.
I love you, he whispered.
This is moving too quick.
"And I'll never leave and never let anything happen to you, I swear,"
That's quick.
he added.
So quick.
She kissed him and wrapped her arm even more tightly around his chest and pulled herself in tight at his side so her chest was pressed against him.
Ooh, boobs. "I love you too." If he had any doubts before, they were all gone. He now knew what he had to do. He had to get stronger, no matter what the cost. He had to protect her and stay with her. Darth Storm would teach him how he can do that, how he can keep his life together but still fight the Guardians as they came to try and kill him. Darth Storm was his answer, his solution, his teacher, his master. He would learn the ways of the dark side, the way to protect himself and Brittany. To Brittany, he would be Mike Moore. To those who knew his secret, he would be known not as Mike Moore, but as Darth Salvador, warrior of the Sith, protector of those he loves. No one will hold him back from protecting them. Not the Jedi, not the Guardians, not even the very Sith he was now learning from. Mike Moore and Darth Salvador, two identities in one body, working together. Tonight, his training in the ways of the dark side will begin. And with that training, his path towards power will open up to him. Darth Salvador. Okay.
So, maybe if you're interested in RPGs and playing one, the two identities in one body reminds me of a game I have, Valkyrie Profile 2. And it's not much of a spoiler because it's established right at the beginning, but the main character, Alicia, has the soul of a Valkyrie in her, and they kind of can switch who's in control of the body.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's really fascinating. And that's a thing. Maybe we'll play it on Control Freaks. It's like an early 2000s RPG. It's actually real fun. Anywho.
Are we gonna do another chapter? Yeah.
Yeah, we got time.
Chapter 7.
Symbol.
I thought it was an exclamation mark for a second.
Simbo! It does look like Symbol. Mike and Brittany had left her secret spot at about 9 a.m. to go home.
They stayed there for another 3 hours?
Jesus Christ. Did you get, like, bored? Were you like, I just wanna, okay, like, we're done here, and, like, bugs, and, like, I hate this. He walked her home, then headed home himself. Now that she was no longer around him, his mind was contemplating what his training would be like tonight. He had not seen or heard from Darth Storm since the incident last night with the Guardians. How would he know where to meet him? That was one of the biggest questions on his mind. Storm had not told him where to meet him, only that his training would start tonight, at midnight. When he got back home, he was cut off from the stairs leading upstairs by his younger sisters. Aha! She yelled, jumping in his way. And where have you been? She asked with a grin on her face. What?
It says plural, but it's singular. It says by his younger sisters, but I think it's just the one.
I know. Out, Mike answered, trying to get around her, but she moved to block him again. Uh-huh, she replied, her grin widening. What did you two do last night? She asked. What do you mean? He asked. I saw you and Brittany walk away from here at like 3 a.m, she replied. And you're just getting in, she added, her grin now a full-blown smile. Brother has a girlfriend!
Okay, yeah.
He shoved her aside. Fuck you. Down the she tumbles down the stairs, or like
she's
neck
at the bottom
snaps.
Of the stairs.
Like she's like twitching, like paralyzed.
They're at
a little
the bottom
bit.
Of the stairs.
Oh well,
He's
whatever.
walking up the stairs here.
And walked up the stairs, down the hall, and into his room. He clicked the lock on his door and fell down on his bed. Today was Sunday, the last day of the weekend. Tomorrow was the first day of the school week. He now had to juggle 2 lives, Mike Moore and Darth Salvador. That's like his like band name. He's like fucking Hannah Montana. You get the bass. Both words. Nobody knows.
The show.
He stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. Oh god, he's doing this again. His mind racing with everything that was happening to his life and everything that would happen from this point on. He looked over at the clock on his wall. It was now 11 a.m. Time was flying by.
It takes 2 hours for him to get from the place to...
Well, he's thinking. Like, his mind is racing. He's laying in bed thinking about shit.
So he's been thinking and now it's 11 a.m?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it sounds like this is what he's thinking about.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, so if so, it took them 2 hours to get back. So they got there at 5, had sex for like an hour, stayed there for another 3 hours.
Yeah, they're living their best lives, I guess.
Walked home for 2 hours. That seems like a lot.
Look, man, I don't
They
fucking
take the long
know.
way home. Banged against an alley wall.
Maybe. If this was silver and gold, I'd absolutely believe it.
True.
He tried to get some more sleep, but something was keeping him awake. After 30 minutes of trying to drift to sleep, he finally gave up and got off his bed. He stood there next to his bed, unsure what to do until his training began. As he was heading out of his room to use the bathroom, his phone started to ring.
13 hours?
He didn't even bother looking at the caller ID because he didn't really care who it was. It was someone to talk to, in his opinion, a way for time to go by a little faster. He flipped his phone open. "Hello," he said.
"Hey you," Brittany answered back. "Am I bothering you?" she asked. "I didn't know if you'd be trying to get some sleep or not," she added. "I'm sorry if this is too early."
No, it's fine," he replied. "I can't get any sleep," he added.
"I had a really good time this morning," she said after a moment's pause.
"Me too," he replied.
"I was wondering, are you doing anything tonight?" she asked. Mike was afraid that this would happen.
"I'm sorry, Brittany, but I actually have plans with someone tonight," he answered.
"Do you mind if I ask who?" she asked.
"Just a relative that's in town," he answered. "An uncle who decided to visit tonight, and me and him are going to spend some time together since it's been over a year since I've seen him," he lied.
"What uncle?" she asked. "You never told me that you had an uncle coming to visit," she added.
"He just called today, actually, a little bit before you did," he continued to lie. "He's the type of person who calls at the last minute to schedule things like this," he said with a sigh. "I would love to spend my night with you, but it's been a really long time since I've seen him."
"That's fine," Brittany replied. "Family's always more important. At least that's how I see things anyway," she added. "What time are you going to meet him?" she asked.
"Midnight," he answered. "I know, late, right?" he quickly added.
"Yeah, well, I hope you have fun with your uncle," she replied.
"Hey," he said in a low voice. "You busy?" he asked.
"No, not really."
"Want to do something together now since I can't hang out tonight?" he asked.
"Now?" she repeated. "Sure."
You sure it's not too much trouble?" he asked.
"I'm sure, Mike," she replied.
"Great," he replied in a high voice.
Great.
"Great! I'll see you in a few minutes. I've got to change first," he added. He heard her giggle over the phone.
"Right. See you in a few," she replied. "Love you," she added.
Oh, so much, so fast.
Yeah.
"Love you too."
"I've loved you for 2 years, Mike."
Creepy, obsessed girlfriend.
I mean, he did the same kind of, wasn't it?
Yes.
They both had crushed on each other for a long time.
Yeah, they were
They're
fucking,
finally
like-
together, and all this Jedi Sith stuff is happening. Oh,
And
terrible.
their lives are out of whack.
Oh.
"Love you too." He hung up and jumped off his bed to get dressed. Didn't he go to fucking the
He
bathroom?
was standing in like the hallway or something after leaving his room.
He threw on a clean blue shirt and blue jeans and took off out of his room. He had no idea what was going to happen during his first night of training with Darth Storm. He wanted to spend as much time as he could with Brittany. He ran out the front door and sprinted down the street.
Why are you sprinting?
Something was different about his sprinting. He was not that athletic, even though he had a somewhat muscular frame. But as he was sprinting, instead of most people who slow down after a while, he was actually speeding up. Got fast.
I don't know that Jedi powers
Sonic
suddenly,
speed.
suddenly give you high stamina / endurance.
Look, man, I don't know. He wasn't feeling any sign of fatigue from the running. He made it to her house in record time and walked up to the porch. He knocked on the door, and Brittany answered.
"Wow," she said. "That was fast."
"Yeah, sorry if that was too fast," he replied with a smile.
"No, that's fine," she answered. "I was already ready." She walked out onto the porch and closed the door behind her. They held hands as they walked down the walkway to her house and out onto the sidewalk.
"So," Mike said, "where do you want to go?" he asked. She wrapped her arm around his.
"Anywhere," she answered, putting her head on his shoulder.
Oh my god.
"Where do you want to go, babe?" "Anywhere's
I'm
fine
waiting
as
for
long
her.
as I'm with you."
I'm waiting for the plot twist where she's super fucking evil.
Yeah.
Or like where he has to like kill her. I don't think we'll get that. But like,
Probably
ooh,
not.
wouldn't that be a twist?
Yeah, it'd be funny. Funny.
Anywho.
They started walking down the sidewalk with no specific destination. A man stepped in front of them as they rounded onto another street. Mike stopped and stared at the man. He was tall and had about the same build as Mike, with long jet black hair and black, piercing eyes. Mike knew who he was the moment he saw him. He could tell by the feeling he was getting from the man. He walked past Darth Storm without a word, not wanting to talk about anything about the Sith in front of Brittany. Okay. He could feel Storm's eyes watching his back as he got further away. Mike put his hand inside his pocket and found a piece of paper that had not been there before. Nice. He pulled it out and, shielding it from Brittany's view, unfolded it. Wow, that's not suspicious. Pull this piece of paper from my pocket, looking at it right next to you. No, you can't see what this
Secrets.
says. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Unfolded it. Midnight, the old warehouse, spelled wrong, on the edge of town. Don't be late. Darth Storm must have slipped it into his pocket as they walked by him. Mike quickly shoved the piece of paper back into his pocket. Mike and Brittany spent the whole day together.
Great.
From like 3 a.m. until like 9, closer to 11, and then like literally 2 hours later.
Great.
Oh, first they had just walked around together. Part of the walk was just silence, them enjoying the other's presence, and the other part was them talking about anything. After an hour of walking around, they decided to get something to drink, then something to eat. Then they just laid down on the ground on Brittany's secret spot and looked up at the sky. When it came 7 o'clock, Mike decided to take Brittany home. He walked her up to her porch.
What time for you to have you on, am I right?
Yeah.
That was a wonderful day, he said as he held her hand in his.
Yes, it was, she replied. Mike slowly pulled her in close and kissed her softly on the lips.
See you at school tomorrow, he whispered in her ear. Her cheeks turned red.
Yes, you will, she whispered back. Okay, smooth. No. Mike waited until she was inside her house before turning and walking back to his house. 5 more hours until his training began. He could feel his excitement starting to course through his veins, his anticipation, and his fear of what might happen during the training. He spent the 5 hours before his training just sitting in his room. Okay. When his clock told him it was 11:58 p.m. Really? That's not going to be on time? He decided it was time to leave. He jumped off his bed and out his window. He took off towards the old warehouse where Darth Storm was waiting for him. They spelt the warehouse wrong, and then they used "were" for where.
They're trying.
They're just 2 really similar spelling mistakes, too close to each other. The old warehouse was a run-down warehouse that used to be used to store crates containing many things that came into town. The warehouse had been abandoned over 10 years ago, and no one ever went near it. It was one of the most secluded places in the town. The boards that held the warehouse together were splintered and barely able to support the weight of the building. The inside was completely bare, aside from some old busted-up crates and boards that fell from the ceiling. Mike walked slowly through the doorway where a door was once, but had fallen off due to age and the rotting of wood. The wooden floor creaked as he made his way to the center of the warehouse. Why is this warehouse made of wood and not like sheet metal?
Man, it's old.
But it was used as late as 10 years ago.
Look, man, I don't know.
Whatever.
It's a
He
capitalism.
heard noise above him and looked up and saw Darth Storm standing on one of the beams holding the ceiling up. Okay. Unnecessarily dramatic entrance.
Darth Storm's gay.
Yeah, he had on his black robe this time, and his hood drawn over his head. The moonlight shined in through the splinters in the wood and the open windows and doorway. Took you long enough, Storm said, still looking at the clear night sky through a hole in the roof. Yeah, he's gay.
I'm sorry I took so long, Mike replied. Storm took a step off the beam and landed perfectly in front of Mike.
In our training sessions, you will not be addressed as Mike, Storm began. You will be addressed by your Sith name, Salvador. Mike nodded.
Understood. Storm took a step towards him.
We will start your training and quest for power now, he began. You have a very strong connection to the dark side of the Force. A connection that exceeds my own. Okay, Mike's evil. I will teach you to call upon that force, and how to control it, and bend it to your will, he explained. The dark side requires passion, anger, hatred, and rage. These emotions make you more powerful, and give you a stronger connection to the dark side. Remember one thing. Peace is a lie. There is only passion, he continued.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion.
Okay.
Mike repeated slowly.
Correct, Storm replied. There's only passion. Passion that gives us the strength that the Jedi cannot even begin to touch.
What are the differences between the Sith and Jedi? Mike asked. Joe tried to explain it to me, but
yeah,
I
Joe
didn't
was a
quite
Jedi.
understand it.
Joe was a Jedi, wasn't he? Yes. Joe, Storm replied. That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Get a load of this
Hey,
guy.
I'm your potential Jedi teacher. You may call me Joe. I am the Sith guy. I am Darth Storm. It's like, okay.
Oh. What are the differences? Mike repeated.
The Jedi rely on their knowledge and wisdom to win their fights. They believe in absolute peace and the overall greater good that can be obtained through peaceful negotiations and solutions that are non-violent, Storm answered. The Sith rely on their passion and power to win. We do not believe in second chances like the Jedi do. If we fight someone, then we fight to kill. To fight any other way would be to hinder one's own strength, power, and potential, making them weaker as they fight, he went on.
What is that? Mike blurted out. He had so many questions to ask, so many he didn't know which he could ask first, so he just acted on impulse.
Yeah. This? Storm asked, indicating a cylinder metal piece clipped to his belt.
Yes, Mike replied. What is that weapon?
How do you know it's a weapon? It's a random cylinder. I've only seen other people with, like, stabs.
Storm unclipped it and pressed a button on the
Not
side
even
of the
Jedi
cylinder
stabs,
object.
Just like, they were just electric.
Yeah. Mike heard the same snap hiss he had heard last night as a red blade of energy flared up from the top of the object.
This, Storm said, slowly moving the blade around in the air, is the signature weapon of both the Jedi and the Sith. This is a lightsaber, he said. Mike was transfixed by the blade. It made a hypnotizing hum as it stood still and as Storm moved it slowly through the air. That is definitely the weapon from his dream.
It comes in different colors, Mike said more to himself than to Storm.
Yes, Storm replied. Siths use red blades. The Jedi use other colors such as blue, green, purple, gold, and others. Why does Jedi get so many choices? And the Sith only get red. He explained.
Evil.
There's nothing that can withstand the cut of the lightsaber. It can cut through 99.9% of every material on this planet. The only exception are those rods that you saw the Guardians using last night, he went on.
How can those rods withstand a lightsaber if nothing else can? Mike asked.
Because the energy those rods used were reverse engineered from a lightsaber they had obtained, Storm answered. They are designed to specifically hold back the energy, heat, and power of a lightsaber. He shut the blade down and clipped it back on his belt.
I can buy that, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know what the science...
I also don't know the science.
If we have the materials necessary. It's comet juice. No.
It's just stardust.
Oh, yeah. Where was I? Mike just stood there reflecting on all Storm had said. Now, Storm began, we will start your training. My voice is not holding up well. However, before we begin your control over the Force, there's one thing you need to understand about being a true Sith, he added.
What is that? Mike asked, coming out of his trance.
You must become more than a person in the mind of your opponent, Storm answered. You must become something more, something fearful, terrifying. In flesh and blood you can be ignored, destroyed, and killed. But as a symbol you can be terrifying. You can be everlasting. You can be immortal. Even when your physical body dies, the symbol you created will stand, forever reminding people of you, he explained.
A symbol of power, Mike blurted out more to himself.
Okay.
Storm smiled under his hood.
Good, he said. You're beginning to understand the ways of the dark side. Power frees us from the chains of our mortality, and victory releases us from our chains as humans, making us more than human, making us near gods. Okay, I don't know. He said, now we will start your control of the Force, and I will teach you how to call upon the dark side at a moment's notice. Soon, calling on the dark side will be second nature to you. Then you'll be ready for more intense and powerful training. Mike nodded and began his training with the Darth Storm, Dark Lord of the Sith.
Man, I'm so happy there's a fucking train going by.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're picking that up. Good. Cool. Should we try?
Sure.
Chapter 8. Power!
It's a treat. Since it's our first time in a year, we'll go for the full hour.
We'll go. Alright. Mike had got back home at 6 in the morning from training with Darth Storm. He didn't have any time to even get sleep.
Who the heck is Charles?
I don't know. His training with Storm had taught him a lot of things. Before he had to have intense focus to lift even a paperclip into the air. Now he could lift low-weight things without such focus. He had learned how to use the Force to push objects short distances, and how to use the Force to pull objects towards him. He was not yet experienced enough to do the things Storm could do, but Mike could sense that he would soon be able to.
Okay.
He threw on a change of clothes and grabbed his backpack from his floor. It was Monday morning, and time to go back to school. He couldn't let his training in the Force get in the way of his normal life. He needed to keep up appearances to people and hide all the signs that he was leading a second life as well. All right, Hannah Montana. Mike ran to the bus stop and met Charles, who was there waiting for the bus as well. Charles threw his arm around Mike's shoulder.
Should I be him or should
you? Probably.
I mean, he's only here for like 5 lines and then it's Brittany again.
Do you want me to do it?
So, my friend, how did Saturday go? He asked with a grin. Mike pushed his arm off.
It was fine. It went fine, he answered.
Just fine? Charles asked. Oh, come on. Details, man. Details.
We just hung out for the day, went to the movies, then I walked her home, Mike replied. Normal date.
Uh-huh, Charles said sarcastically. Mike didn't like talking about her personal or private life. He was a withdrawn guy, drawing everything inward rather than pushing everything outward towards others. The bus arrived a few minutes earlier than usual, and Mike and Charles climbed on board. Mike sat next to Brittany, who had motioned for him to sit next to her. When he sat down next to her, he said next to her 3 times in one sentence. She snatched his hand with hers. So, did you have a good time with your uncle? She asked.
Yeah, Mike answered. We just went out and got something to eat at midnight. Not many things opened. Ended up going through McDonald's and just getting some unhealthy food there, he went on.
This is an elaborate lie. I see, she replied. Sounds like fun.
Wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, he replied. But it was okay. Nice seeing him again. He hated lying to Brittany, but he couldn't let her find out that he was different from her in ways she could never imagine.
Okay,
When they arrived at school, Brittany gave Mike a quick kiss on the lips and walked off to her first hour. Mike walked off to his as well. He had science class first. He took his seat in the back of the class as he usually did. He spent the whole hour moving things very slowly with the force.
You just casually moving things with the force in the middle of class. Oh, I can't let anybody find out about my secret powers.
Just rolling his pencil.
Let me just use telekinesis in the middle of class.
Man, you get the best of both.
Yeah.
He had to keep practicing so he could advance his training quickly. When the bell rang to end class, Mike was one of the first ones to the door. Mike walked to his locker to get his history book for his next class when someone bumped into him. Joseph McWall, the quarterback for the River High football team, and a natural-born muscle-headed jackass. Watch it! He shouted at Mike, and he spun around to face him down. Hey, you bumped into me, Mike replied, trying to avoid the inevitable conflict that was headed his way. You want to star something? Joseph. Do those voices sound too similar?
Nah, it's...
Great. Joseph said, walking up and getting in Mike's face. No, Mike answered, taking a step back. Not really. Joseph grabbed the collar of Mike's shirt and slammed him against his locker. Trying to be funny, punk! Brittany came running in and slapped Joseph's arm away from Mike. Mike fell on his butt on the ground. What the hell are you doing? Joseph yelled at her.
Stopping you, she yelled back.
Joseph pushed Brittany to the ground. Out of the way! Brittany slammed on the ground pretty hard.
Ow! She yelled as she grabbed her shoulder.
Brittany! Mike yelled, worried about her. He made a move to go to her, but Joseph stepped in his way. Running away, pussy!
This dude's very aggressive.
This is out of left field unless he showed up in the previous chapters and I forgot about it. This is so, like...
Since they described him as, like, the quarterback and the muscle-headed jackass as they were introducing him, I think this is his first appearance.
This is so, like, a teen beach movie. I don't actually know what that movie's about, but my coworker Grace mentioned it was a Disney... Like, you know, it feels very Disney Channel, like, oh, he's just a bully because he plays football.
Yeah.
He said, pushing Mike backwards away from Brittany. It's your fault that she's hurt. If you weren't so goddamn weak, you would... fuck, I'm slipping into gold. If you weren't so goddamn weak, you wouldn't need to be saved by her. He pushed Mike back against the wall of lockers. Shut up, Mike muttered. Don't tell me to shut up, Joseph yelled, grabbing Mike by the collar of his shirt again. I'm going to beat the living fuck right out of you, you little coward. I'm going to
beat the living fuck out.
This is so hard on my throat, goddamn.
Mike, Brittany muttered, still holding her injured shoulder. Suddenly, something in Mike snapped. Joseph was thrown across the hall to the opposite wall of lockers, slamming against them so hard the lockers shook. His hand clasped over his throat, and he started to gasp for air.
Oh shit, he's force choking him without meaning to.
He's force choking him, literally in front of everyone in the hallway.
And Brittany.
And Brittany. Oh, I'm so good at hiding my supernatural abilities.
Oh no.
As I started,
That's bad.
I was reading it, yeah.
Yeah.
Brody started to gasp for air. Mike's anger and rage towards Joseph was spilling over like lava. Star Wars.
We were like brothers, Anakin.
Burning everything in its path and turning it into ash. His blood was boiling. Truck. He hated Joseph for hurting her. He would make him pay for that. Joseph fell to the ground, still grabbing at his throat, trying to breathe. Everyone around... Moped? I don't know. Everyone around him was terrified. They had no clue what was happening. Mike slumped over and was sitting against a wall of lockers, his eyes focused on Joseph. Mike was feeding off of his fear, his panic, and his pain. He took extreme pleasure in watching his most hated enemy so helpless and vulnerable. Okay.
Ooh, this is what happens when you train with the dark side, buddy. This is where he's gonna have his change of heart. I'm following the
Suddenly,
arc.
someone flung their arms around him. It was Brittany. She clung to him and buried her face in his chest, unable to watch Joseph. Then Joseph stopped moving, because he could have literally killed him. Or just... He stopped gasping for air. He just lay there on the ground, frozen. Suddenly, Mike felt exhausted, and his mind went blank, and his eyes closed. Mike slowly opened his eyes. What had happened? Last thing he remembered was Joseph gasping for air, then his body going stiff, then himself passing out. A school nurse walked up to him.
You gave me the nurse.
Feeling okay, Mr. Moore? She asked, handing him a glass of water.
What happened? Mike asked.
You passed out, the nurse answered.
What about Joseph? He asked. The last thing I remember was he was having a hard time breathing, he said slowly. The nurse shook her head slowly.
Joseph is dead.
Oh.
Mike's eyes widened at the words. Dead? But how? Those are his thoughts. The police have declared his death an accident, the nurse went on. Apparently, he was a heavy smoker, so they guessed that during the excitement, his lungs failed to respond to his breathing, she explained.
What about Brittany? He yelled out.
Easy, easy, the nurse replied. She is fine. She merely had a sprained shoulder. Do you sprain your shoulder? I guess. It's more like dislocated, if anything.
Yeah.
But I guess you can sprain it too. The ligament or whatever. She wanted to stay here with you, but I convinced her to go home and get some rest, she explained. Mike sat up in the bed of the hospital wing of the school. Hospital wing?
What kind of school do they go to?
There's like a nurse's office, and that should be about it.
Guess they have a wing.
I guess.
I'm fine. I'm going home too, he said.
Take it easy, Mr. Moore, the nurse replied. I will have one of the teachers drive you home, she said, walking over to the phone on the wall.
No, he replied, standing up on the floor. I want to walk home. He walked out of the hospital wing and out of the school. School had been canceled after Joseph's death and would remain closed until they saw fit to reopen and console students who needed it. As Mike was walking...
Do they mean counsel?
Probably.
Console.
Wow, they're closing till they see fit? You know how many high schoolers die in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the very next day everyone's back in class?
Yeah.
I guess the 90s were a different time than 08. And counsel students who needed it. As Mike was walking him, he was suddenly brought to his knees. His knees were shaking uncontrollably. He was suddenly hit with a realization. I killed him, Mike yelled in his head. It was starting to come back to him now. His anger and hatred at Joseph for hurting Brittany. His wanting revenge for her injured shoulder. Him wanting to see Joseph suffer. Mike threw up on the sidewalk. He had killed a man. A fellow human being. He had ended the life of someone who was not even worth killing. He was a killer. A cold-blooded murderer. He slowly got up to his feet and stumbled his way home, holding back tear as he did so. He got home and ignored his parents' and sisters' worried questions they shot at him. He walked up to his room and kicked the door shut and locked it. He fell on his bed and broke down. He had never sobbed like this before. His whole body was shaking so bad he couldn't even hold anything. I'm a killer, he muttered to himself over and over. A killer. Killer. Killer.
A killer. Does he kill killers who kill killers?
I guess. Was this power worth the price? Another human being's
I mean,
life?
you were gonna kill people.
Mike
You knew
wanted the
this.
dark side to protect those he loved, not kill people who truly did not deserve the high price of death. He realized he was not cut out for this life, the life of the
That
dark
was
side.
quick.
He could not handle the consequences of his actions and the ramifications they were sure to bring on him and those he loved.
I mean, good for him, but also okay. You knew you were going to be killing people when this started. I mean, not like random school bullies, but you thought people who were trying to kill you, you'd kill them too.
Well,
He
Mike,
was prepared for that.
maybe you should have listened to Friendly Neighborhood Joe.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, instead
Joe-
of Darth Storm.
Yeah.
One of those is a red flag name, Michael. Which one, I wonder?
I mean, Joe can be kind of sketchy too,
I guess.
potentially.
Anywho.
I mean, the Joes I know are nice people. Anywho.
Thank you all so much for tuning into Fanfiction Friday. I'm sorry my camera malfunctioned like 8 minutes in.
So you don't get to see our beautiful faces anymore.
It's a shame because I filled in my eyebrows today and they were looking mighty fine. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like my eyebrows.
Yeah, you can see us in the first, 8 minutes of this.
Right. Well, also, maybe the show does work better as, an audiobook anyways. It's probably something people would rather play in the background. I don't know.
True, but you can play it in the back. Just have it in a different tab or something.
I
but
know.
It's sometimes fun to watch our facial expressions as we're reading this.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Join us next week where we continue this lovely fan fiction. We are on chapter 8 of 58. Oh no, it's much longer than I thought.
You didn't remember that? It was
No.
like a 78,000 thing or whatever.
Oh no, it's 79,000 words. That's shorter than Clockwork.
Yes, it is.
Clockwork was 300,000.
I mean, 8 in 2 sessions, and then there's 50 to go.
We'll make
so
it.
4 per chapter, so...
We'll make it. Anywho, thank you all so much for tuning in. Join us next week when we continue this lovely fan fiction. If you have a fan fiction that you would like for us to read, leave it as a comment down below and we'll read it on the show. Why not? And just,
Unless
thank you
it's
guys
weird.
so much for tuning in. Until next time, stay awesome, read more smut. Bye.
Bye.
Alright, I'm hungry.